HorrorDeconstruction.
What's up, everybody? It's the HorrorDeconstruction. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and most likely on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. With your host, Komp and
Thea.
Today, we're going to be talking about a good series. You notice that there's somebody else missing. That would be Danny, because he actually... this feels sacrilegious doing this episode without Danny, but he had a very important job tonight. He's a keynote speaker at a men's rights activist movement. So that he's going to be crying about not wanting to make sure people don't sit down when they pee. Anyway.
He's fighting the good fight.
Thea, what's today's series that we'll be talking about?
Today we're talking about Squid Game. It's the one that everybody's talking about.
Really? I didn't hear one peep about any. I haven't seen it on the internet. Nothing.
No memes.
Wow. So I will say before that, I think Parasite probably opened up the doors for people to see and appreciate Korean cinema. And
subtitled entertainment in general.
I am so grateful that he actually said, listen, just take 5 seconds to look at subtitles and you will realize how good it is. So
yeah.
And I'm sure that led to the backlash of the versions of Squid Game that have dubbed
the dubbed version.
I
know somebody that watched the dubbed version.
Oh, God. Are they okay after that? Did they make it
No,
through?
They were not okay.
Whoops.
They were very confused as to why people loved this show so much, and I was like, well, maybe you should have figured it out.
So if you're one of the 3 people that live in China or North Korea that have not watched Squid Game, because I believe it's illegal you can't watch it in China.
Really?
This is, because I think they might be pushing too much to the truth.
That tracks.
Hundreds of cash-strapped players accept a strange invitation to compete in a children's games. Inside, a tempting prize awaits with deadly high stakes. A survival game that is a whopping 45.6 billion won prize at stake. Starring Lee Jung-jae, Park Hae-soo, and Greg Chung. I should find out the name of the guy who actually masterminded this show, because I believe it took him 10 years to put this series together.
It sure did.
So, Thea, give us a little bit of rundown, even though I just gave that sort of pithy description of the show. What is Squid Game about?
It's about a cast of characters basically that are so hard on their luck that they will do anything, or they are pushed to do anything, and which happens to be playing games to make money and relieve all their debts and make a better life for themselves. But in the meantime, hundreds and hundreds of people die.
Yes, hundreds of people. I think it was
about 455.
Right.
Is that it?
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Because I think he's 456, right?
Yes.
So yeah, obviously this is a spoiler episode of the show. So we are with the lead character Sung Ji-hung, played by Lee Jung-jae. It's going to be very difficult remembering all these names, but I have the characters open on my screen, so whenever you want to note to them, you just let me know.
Perfect.
This isn't a long line of deadly games. This genre has been around for a long time. Obviously, even beyond far back from like Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm sure there's plenty of or even what was that? The Deadliest Game, which is I think it's about a veteran who's outrunning rich hunters that are trying to kill him. But it goes through that sort of premise of your desperation for cash or for some sort of freedom. You play in these games, and it's obviously with deadly results and stuff like that. Most notably, one of the biggest ones was Battle Royale, which came out in 2000. Fantastic movie, which at the time, because we didn't really need a movie about Battle Royale in the U.S. because it was actually happening in our fucking high schools with people actually shooting up.
Yeah, no kidding.
They would have never made that movie over there. I don't think they still wouldn't, because we still, unfortunately, have shit like that. I don't know how it is in Canada. But it's pretty terrible.
Well, they did make it in the U.S. eventually, and they called it Hunger Games.
There you go. That's true. I actually listened to all the audiobooks, and I enjoyed them, but I just couldn't get through the movies for some reason.
I've never seen or read or consumed any piece of Hunger Games.
Yeah, I think it's the last young adult novel I had listened to audiobook-wise, because I thought, it sounds like, I didn't think
it sounds interesting. It actually sounds like it would be up my alley, but it's one of those things that was so big at the time that I was like, I'm good.
It's actually well done for the books, because it gets pretty brutal, not as in gory, graphic sort of brutality. Yeah. It's just characters getting killed off and stuff like that. And I thought it was actually well done. And I forget that young adults actually want to read. They'll read realistic stuff, and they don't just want to read about girls going to the mall or some stupid shit like that. Previously to this, I had watched on Netflix, and this is my direct decree to Thea to go check out a series called Alice in Borderland, which is a Japanese series that got a little push, but not as big as this show did. But Alice in Borderland is a Japanese deadly game show where these three guys, they're causing a ruckus in Japan. They're probably in their early 20s or something like that, or late teens, and they hide from some cops. They come out. Japan is completely empty. Tokyo is empty, and they get pushed into these games. And a lot of people are arguing that Alice in Borderland is better than Squid Game. I will actually say, but Alice in Borderland has a little bit of science fiction element towards the latter half of it.
Right.
Not really spoiling it because fucking people did vanish. There's got to be a reason for that shit to happen. But I will say if you really liked Squid Game, go watch Alice in Borderland. So with that said, let's get into Squid Game. So can you describe the main character of Song Ji-hoon?
Yeah, he's basically a guy that makes ends meet by any means possible, usually by gambling or finding or getting money somehow.
Yes.
But doesn't really have a real job or want one, it seems. He also has a daughter and an ex-wife, a daughter whose birthday he does not remember all the time. And he lives with his mother, and he is very desperate to get cash because he has nothing. And he's also being followed around by loan sharks, it seems. Yeah,
the thing I can appreciate about, and I'll get to that loan shark shit because something about that bothered me at the end of the show. Something that I appreciate with Asian cinema is that they will not have an outright good character. They work. They really work to make you like the character and let them be seen as human. Because just from the beginning, when you see him, that he's living off his poor mother's back, and she's like this aged woman who we don't know till later on is she has like diabetes and she's suffering because this guy's a fucking like leech and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he's such a
he's very unlikable in the first episode.
He is. He's very unlikable.
Yeah.
But I think one of the smarter things that the actor did, Lee Jung-jae, is that he actually told him, because he gets a little money windfall. And I think, the mother of his best friend, well, not really his best friend, but in the show, he's like, quote unquote, his good friend from back in the days, Cho Sang-woo, played by Park Hae-soo. She gives him a bit of squid. It was so funny because people were complaining about Squid Games, and they'll take a screen grab of when the mother's cooking squid, and they go, look, there it goes right there, Squid Game. But he gives a little piece of the food to a little cat. And that was his idea to the director. He said, can I just have him, just show some humanity from this character? And I was like, that's like such a like base, like such a corny thing to do. But I was like, okay, he's not a complete piece of shit. Like it really is that rule.
Yeah.
If a person likes an animal and treats them well in a movie, then they're not so horrible. So I did like that. So the series is written and directed by Hwang Dong-hyuk. So there you go. Anyway, so he is at the end of his rope, essentially. He butts heads. He doesn't even know it, but Kang Se-byuk, who is like this, played by Ho Young-jung, which is the female protagonist of the series, I would say. She is this. We don't really know about her yet, but she like pickpockets him, right? And what does that lead to happening to him?
That leads to him basically getting the crap beat out of him in a bathroom by these loan sharks that have been chasing him.
Those guys were like other level because they tasted his blood and they were okay with it. And I was like, didn't you guys know there's a pandemic going on?
That was a lot. I was like, maybe not that. But
it's a little too much for me.
Maybe don't do that.
You can scare somebody, then you can just completely disgust them because I'd be like,
I'm like, you don't know where he's been. He's down on his luck. Like there could be some shit going on anyway.
But
and then they give his name, I think, over to the game. I can't remember.
Do you
how
think
it
so?
worked.
I thought, that was a little strange because my whole big thing at the end is that he obviously won. He wins at the end, right?
Yeah.
Did he didn't pay these guys off? Because he didn't touch the money.
No, they don't talk about it. Yeah, no. So I guess.
So then I was reading theories, and of course theories are as good as dog shit. But they're like,
maybe
probably.
They assumed he died or something.
You're probably like, maybe Oh Il-nam paid them off for him, and I'm like, okay, like they should have sort of directly said that or something, because it sort of just didn't make any sense. But I guess whatever, the show happens. Mm-hmm. So he ends up taking. Who does he meet up? He meets up with a guy on the train.
That's right. Well, he meets up with a gentleman at the train station.
Where is that guy's name? That is, I call him Handsome Man. I can't see.
He's a handsome man. I don't even know if he even has a character name that's stated at any point. This is the guy that he plays, right, in the train station.
Right, yeah, the card guy. I'm gonna
Yes.
look who that is. Obviously, and then because there was 2 actors in here, and I was like, I know both of these guys, and I was like, where the fuck do I know? Obviously, the card guy is from Train to Busan,
Right.
and he's like a humongous like star in Korea. So it's nice that he's able to just show up in the show, and he plays this sort of little small game, which looks like the most frustrating game to play, about tossing like envelopes at each other. So anyway, this leads to let's just get into the show where Seong-ji ends up in this big room, and what is this? They gas them in the car, right? And these guys all have like PlayStation 2 fucking X's and triangles and shits on their faces. Give us the world of Squid Game. Like, what does this place look like? What's going on with it?
Well, it's like a big. Basically, they wake up all of these people, these 456 people, in this big and sort of industrial-looking space. But it's like a huge white room with bunk beds that are stacked about 10 high all the way around. Everybody has a jumpsuit with a number on it. We don't really know if it's according to whether the order they were brought into. We know that he theoretically was brought in last, so that's why he has the last number, but they're just sort of assigned. And there's one enormous door right at the front, which is where the sort of goons come in and tell them about the game. And then there's a giant piggy bank that falls down, that comes down.
And I think each person is worth $1 million, I believe, or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. But there, anyway, anytime somebody dies,
to this
money
big
is
pot,
added.
and obviously that doesn't raise the hackles of these people. It makes them more interested because it's just a life or death situation for all these people if they come back home. Because this show is literally about the 1% and 99% sort of idea of the desperations of not having money and how the rich can essentially do whatever they want. It's sort of like if you watch like Bezos and he's able to go to outer space. You know, when it's like, who are we to ask this guy to give all his money to us? Do you know what I mean? Even though he could like probably solve world debt, but then he would be just like us. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like that, and that's what the show I think picks apart of how the desperation of just people in general who don't have money, be it like their vices or whatever, how they fucked up their own lives, that they just this horrible desperation and they need this money, so they'll do whatever they can for it. And the rich who are so bored that they need to see this, this destruction of human beings because
they have
bored.
Nothing left. There basically are no other things left that will entertain them because everything else is.
Do you think there were any other social things that the show brought up that you weren't aware that they were going to do?
No, I don't. I can't think of anything in particular. I mean, I liked how complex the characters' stories and backstories were, and that we actually got to see those, and because it felt slow at first, right? Like it felt sort of because it's television, it's not a movie, even though it's a movie feeling plot. They do really sort of like take their time showing you who these people are.
And it's a pretty good group of lead characters in the show, because Ali is like the only person of color in this show, and it was very nice to actually see that actor in here. So it's pissing me off that I can't see the actors.
I guess that was the storyline that I was happy and surprised to see, because there are a lot of any of the media that I've consumed that's come out of like Korean directors and that kind of thing usually doesn't have a lot of representation of other
it seems to be a
within
very homogenous or closed off,
which is fine.
You're right.
I mean, that's the world they're living in, but also it's nice to see sort of injected into that like a story of an immigrant in that space also. It was cool.
It's also very ironic because I just visit the cesspools on the internet, and there's obviously these like message boards and stuff like that talking about the show, and then you'd accidentally run into these sort of racist assholes, and they go, "Oh, I love Squid Game. There's no, it's not like POC or gay or anything." And I'm like, you realize the only white people in the show are like the evil, ones are like. But it's just like whatever. But the interesting thing about the show is that they did have like character. I think his name Anupam is the name of the actor who played Abdul Ali, and he's like the very sweet, person of color character that you knew he was. he was gonna take that. He's gonna take that shit sandwich, but
Yeah.
They made him very likable, very nice, very trusting. If anything, I was just so glad that Ali got that asshole boss of his arm torn up. I felt good. I was very grateful for that. Did you think that the show had a little bit of queer baiting in it at all, or no?
You mean like the relationship between
The two girls.
Yeah, and then the one episode, they could have gone there with it. I don't. I'm trying to stay away from the idea of queer baiting, just because it's like it's projected, right? Like,
yes,
there are movies out there, there are things out there that, and obviously, like, there are things like there are pieces of film and TV that do actually kind of do it. But I think this was just like a nice way to look at like a female friendship that could have been.
Right, that's what I thought too, because like I didn't ask that necessarily because of your stance in general. I just thought in general, like, because it seems like everybody runs around with ideas about the show, like main characters and stuff like that, always like hooking up, which is fine for them.
Yeah.
But you never know what the real intentions of the writings are, because it doesn't seem, it's like these are all just sort of desperate characters, and I never got sort of this. I might have gotten a hint of it, but that's only after you sort of go out into the world and look at the other sort of ideas of other people, and you're like, oh, it could be this way, it could be that way, but people are sort of just obsessed with, having it one way or the other. And I will say, for the actress, the character named Ji Young, who is the other, they could have easily, she's played by Lee Yu-mi, she could have easily just have been sort of a shitty knockoff character of the main female character, Kang.
Yeah.
But like just in 2 episodes, where she's not barely in one, and at the end when she thanks her, and I really felt so awful. I was like, Jesus Christ, that's like good acting when she thanks her for playing with her.
Yeah.
Because she had no life. I literally, I was so, like, obviously we're all talking about episode 6 where they knock off half of the characters in the show.
I think it's probably the best episode.
It is, because it's showing you the brutality of the series. And it's just like really like they're not fucking around, because you realize like it's only 9 episodes of this show.
Yeah.
And you got the main characters of Sung-ji, who's the main guy. Everybody else is sort of not secondary, that they're pushed to the back, but that Sung-ji is the main guy in the show.
Yeah, because he's who we follow right off the bat, basically. So
it's mostly like Sung-ji, Kang Se, who's the woman, Oh Il-nam, who's the old man, who we don't know till later is the the orchestrator of all this, because he's sort of the most bored rich man in the world. Mm-hmm. And we have Cho Sang-woo, who graduated from SNU, as Sung-ji tries to impress people with him, because I believe that Sung-ji had hope in this other character who turns out to be, not, I wouldn't say, like, to say Cho Sang is a bastard, like, is a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. It's out of necessity. Like, he came to play the game. Like, I understand, because he like, the same thing that Sung-ji did to Oh Il-nam in the game is the same shit Cho Sang-woo did to Ali. Like, they did the same thing, but you root for Sung-ji because he fed a cat, but you don't see what Cho Sang did. They essentially did the same shit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But Oh Il-nam had a soft spot for Sung-ji. That's it. Yeah. So Cho Sang's character, who's, I'm gonna call him SNU guy, is like very complicated, but you see the desperation in him, and people are like immediately like, he's the bad guy because he got Ali killed. He's a bad guy because he stabs. I do think it was shitty what he did to Kang Se, like cutting her throat. Like, if he didn't stab her in the heart or something, fine. Yeah. But it was particularly brutal, and I think they wanted you to understand that, like that's the amount of desperation that he had, because you have also other cartoonish villains like Jang Dyuk-soo, who's the big muscly guy with the long hair, like the Korean mafia guy. And then you have Han Min-yo, who's like the crazy lady. Yeah. She grew on me. Yeah, she grew on me, because I thought, I was like, oh, she's just this annoying lady, but she's very funny. And then like obviously I look at all the Netflix stuff on YouTube after. There's a channel called Swoon, SWOON, where they interview all these people outside of the show, obviously, and they're all just like such lovely actors and stuff like that, especially her. She's like such a nice character. And the guy playing the asshole mafia guy says now all he does is get texts for people asking him to go to the bathroom with him. So I don't know.
No.
What do you think? What do you think had faults in the show? Do you think that there were any really fucked up things that they did, or they could have addressed better with the series? pacing wise, was it fine? Do you think that
people found it slow, or I heard people found it slow. I found it a little slow in the beginning, but I didn't mind it because I sort of knew what I was getting into.
Yeah, I would say that it's like Korean cinema is sort of like that, where it has a slow and then they sort of build up. But please continue.
And maybe I just have a bit of patience for it because I watch a lot of older like horror, so slow is fine. No, I mean the ending left something to be desired. I think for me.
Okay.
Why did he dye his hair? I don't know. That's the least of the concerns, I guess.
Maybe he was a BTS fan and he just kind of realized it at that last moment. He was just like, I gotta get my hair like one of those guys. The ending, obviously, I was like, as soon as he was walking, I was like, this motherfucker's gonna turn around, because there was no idea to like make a second season to this.
No,
like,
of course.
When I had first seen the trailer for this, when I had seen the trailer for this show, this is before any of this shit happened, like any of this craziness, because I think it's 144 million views on Netflix, which is like insane.
Yeah.
When especially for a subtitled show, which is great because usually you have to fight for that kind of crap. When I saw the trailer for it and I saw that it was similar to Alice in Borderland, I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch the show.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't believe, like, literally everybody watched the show, and obviously we're waiting for the backlash for people to be like, oh, it's not that good. It's a good fucking show. Yeah. It is a good show, you know. Or they'll be like, oh, it's not original. What is original? You tell me what's original.
Nothing's
the last
original.
Fucking 20 years. Yeah.
But it was also creative. Like, it was beautiful to look at. It was well made.
Aesthetically, a gorgeous series.
Very cool.
One of the most gorgeous series. And stuff that I hadn't even realized. Like, obviously, I picked up on the MC Escher stuff with that, that kaleidoscope room with the stairs going wherever they went and stuff like that. But they were the part where when they start shooting people in that first fantastic game with the robot girl who turns around and plays the hiding run. I forget what it's called. What the game is called.
Red Light, Green Light.
Red Light, Green Light. Sorry, a game even Americans have played in the past. And she shoots, and the lady like puts her hands to her face, and it's sort of this iconic image of the show, her screaming with blood on her face, is a direct reference to Edvard Munch's The Scream painting. There's a lot of them, and it's just like, I was like, wow, you really forget that really, like, there's a lot of art, and especially for this show, a lot of art and care went into the look of the show, and it's like, you can't say enough. Because even the side story with the cop, which is one that really pissed me off, that story pissed me off with the cop, because I was like, I wanted, I didn't think the cop was actually going to make it to where he made it towards the end. I thought he would have been dead like way earlier, because he was like really cutting it close with everything.
He was really just like going for it.
He really was like a fucking Terminator though. That actor, like, he was I liked his character actually, because he was like, as I watched the series, because when you do watch Korean cinema, they either have cop dramas or they have horror stuff like that, or drama films, and usually the cop dramas, the cops are a lot like this. Like, if you watch I Saw the Devil, like, the main character cop is sort of like how this character is in this film. But that guy like went berserk, like in I Saw the Devil, which is a great movie, but he got to show his humanity. And here the character is a little bit more restrained. And when I saw the front man, who was this guy with this mask on, and he took his mask off, I was like, I know who this fucking actor is, but I realized he was in G.I. Joe. So, he's in one of the G.I. Joe. I think he played Storm Shadow or something like that, which is the white ninja of the show, of those movies. Not that anybody else would know, because I didn't even watch the movie. I just knew he was in it. So it's sort of like another case of where an Asian actor is brought to America just to sort of do kung fu and shit like that, even though he's not. I don't think he's even the ethnicity of the character that he was playing. You know what I mean? Like, they don't give Korean actors whatever. So it's like it's sort of that bullshit with and I give them props for taking work, for Asian actors getting work here, and hopefully we get to see them as regular characters in regular movies and shit. Because when you see bullshit of like Marvel saying Shang-Chi is a watermark for Asian actors, it's like, no, I mean, it's good that there's a whole crew in behind it, but it's still like working on a karate film and stuff like that. So when you see something like this Squid Game, it's like so well done, and it's like so beautifully made, and you like, for once, like, for like, as rarely as it happens, like, you can have whatever what was that movie? I think it was the film about the very affluent Asian families that are rich. I forgot what that was, the biggest
Crazy Rich Asians.
Crazy Rich Asians, which even a group of a lot of Asian people were like pissed off at how it portrayed them anyway.
Yeah, well, it reinforces other stereotypes that aren't necessarily
So when you see a film that was made essentially home based. You know what I mean? And and people are able to appreciate it, much like they did with Parasite. You're like, oh fuck, that's
Yeah.
great. So that opens up people's palette so they can watch. And I really think this actually shows the strength of what Netflix can do. Because I've seen plenty of like series, Uncanny. What is it called? There's a Korean show called The Uncanny something or other. That's a great show itself. I'll think of the name of that show. Even now, I'm starting up a show called My Name Is, which is a Korean show. Great show already. So, what do you think this the aspect of so many people watching the show will do in the long run for these types of series?
I mean, I hope it will make people reinvest and go back and sort of look for these things. I think the truth of it is like the way that it took off, because it has such like big screen value and ideas. It was an easier sell probably. I mean, I didn't watch it until it got memed to death on every social media platform that exists.
I'm even on I'm on a Facebook group called SQUID GAME debt posting. It's just memes and they're fucking great. But
yeah,
continue.
and they are great, and it is a highly like visual like stimulating show. So like even if you don't totally want to follow the plot, it's very recognizable character archetypes, and it's recognizable plot from other
and it's
things.
a universal thing with money. Obviously,
Completely.
money is the fucking thing.
Yeah.
The show is called Uncanny Counter on Netflix, so I also recommend that. So Alice in Borderland and Uncanny Counter. So obviously, I don't think we had much negativity on the show besides maybe the ending and some plot points.
I would have rather they kept it as it. I would rather them not have left it open ended and sort of finished that story and let him.
A lot of Korean cinema, I see either that it's open-ended or it's just miserable endings.
Yeah.
Like Danny, have I just been like seen so many Korean movies like
I would have taken a miserable ending,
Like we're just it's sort of, I guess it is sort of miserable because there's poor kids out there in the United States while her dad decides with his pink hair to take down billionaires for putting up
I don't know what this is now. Like, is it going to be like we have to bring down the system Westworld type of thing? Like, I don't really
and plus, how could you do a secondary like I'll watch it if it's the same people working on it, but it seems like it's gonna be a forced hand.
Well, and also it's one of those things where the beauty of this kind of show, where it has been from a creator that's so invested in this particular idea because
10
it is
years,
so good, and he's put a decade's worth of work and energy into it. That's also why it's so good. And rushing a second season and even if it's the same money value and the same people, like it's just never going to be the same.
I think it
beautiful
cost them,
idea.
I think it cost them $21 million to make, and so far they made $900 million on it.
Jesus Christ.
I know, right? That Ted Sarandos. So I think that's the Netflix guy. He's just me like smoking a giant cigar.
Well, good for
laughing.
him. I mean, I'm glad that the guy that made it is.
I hope they gave a couple of bucks to Hwang Dong-hyuk, because I believe with Netflix, because this was made directly for Netflix. This wasn't made outside of Netflix.
Right.
Netflix buys out all. They do that. They do that thing where they buy out everything. It's sort of we heard that series called I May Destroy You. With, I forget her name, that actress. That's a show that I want to see, but
you
Netflix.
Need to see it.
Yes, and it just looks great. And they offered her to buy out the series, and she did it, and now she has a huge series on HBO. So I mean, who'd have known?
Michaela Cole is her name.
Nikhil, that's her name, right? So like, you never know what really is going to hit on Netflix because they have a lot of content. Unbelievable amounts of content, but the content they do have, that stuff that does stick out, is worth, I would say, like the $14 a month that you fucking push in, because they keep coming up with new stuff. I think. Do you have finally? Do you guys have any? Do you have any? I was thinking Danny was fucking here. Do you have any top 2 games for you? Because like I can't rank all the games, but obviously from most memorable to the ones that you were favorite with. We had obviously Red Light, Green Light. We had the Dalonga Sugar game. We had the Glass Bridge. We had Tug of War. They didn't spend much time on the Tug of War, I noticed, but I guess in real life you couldn't really spend much time on that.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do, I guess, with that one.
There's the aforementioned Squid Game. I think that was 5. There were supposed to be 6 games, right? For some reason, I'm blanking on one.
There's
of them,
another one, but I can't remember what it. Oh, no, what the fuck was it?
First game was Marbles, correct? Yeah. I was too devastated by Marbles to put that as one of my favorite
well, because that one wasn't really about the game. It was because they could make it any game, right?
Yeah, that was more for as soon as you, like, which was a brilliant acting movement when they announced, oh, you got to take your marbles, and you see the main character, like, his face just completely drops, and you're like, oof.
Yeah, like as soon as they pick partners, you kind of know that's coming.
Yeah.
A little bit, especially when they're picking people they like.
Yeah, it should be no surprise in these types of shows that happens.
Yeah,
like
but it still is the way that they sort of unravel it for each of them is quite good. Obviously the most that sticks out to me is Red Light, Green Light, just because it's the biggest.
Same here.
And it's the most like. I guess maybe some of the other games had more casualties too, but that one is the sort of most devastating because they didn't know what is going to happen.
Yeah, and that's a real sort of like a real eye opener for a first episode, like because when you try to grab people in a first episode, because I tried to show this to some family members, and I was like, oh, watch this show. And it started out with the kids playing Squid Game at the beginning. They're like, "What the fuck is this?" They just did not. I'm like, "Listen, it's only
just go with it."
I'm like, "It's only 9 episodes. Please, I'm gonna try to redo it, because it's like it's that entertaining of a show, but whatever." But obviously, Red Light, Green Light, I think is aesthetically the best looking one in the show, and I would even give it up to the Longa game as the second one as my favorite because it was just like. That was panic-inducing when they had to, cut the shape out of the cookie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then there's also the glass bridge one. But I thought that the fact that if it was like multiple bridges, then it would be a little bit more tense. But because the main character sort of felt safe because they were always in the back.
Yeah, because they're at the end. Yeah, I was like, that's a little like it was a cool set piece and it was a cool idea.
Yeah, and very unfortunate for the woman at the show. As soon as she was like, "Oh," I was like, "Oh, she's fucking dead." I was like, "Oh man."
I know, but like that they're gonna, that he's gonna be the only one anyway. You just don't know how it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think those are big. Did you dig Il Nam being the bad guy all along?
Yeah, I think I'm sure multiple people guessed when you sort of see the back of an old man's head. When he said in the black suit.
Yeah, when it said you're Ganbu, I was like, oh, well, that's the old man, isn't it? I was like, oh well.
Yeah. Yes. So.
And people obviously upset that the guy who picked 69 was a predatory old gay man who was trying to get up all in the cop, but I didn't really look at it that way. But when you're rich, I guess you're just horny.
Yeah, rich people are just horny and fucked up. That's all.
Anything else you got on the Squid Game series besides obviously telling people to watch it?
No, I would say just watch it and enjoy. And
what rating would you give Squid Game 2021?
I'm gonna give it an 8.5 or 9.
Very good.
I think 8.5 out of 10. It's very good, but it is archetypal. Like it's sort of what you expect in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's a very good remix. So it's an 8 out of 10. What? We have to do our usual nonsense where we say something out of the show.
8.5. I'm gonna give it an 8.5. An 8.5 out of 10. Shattering a glass bridge that the people just walked across for no reason really, except to hurt them, I guess.
Just to have some extra projectile fun for whoever's watching the series.
For a long slow-mo sequence.
Was this show being recorded for more than those 4 VIP guys? I wasn't sure. It had to be, right?
I think so. I think they were just the ones that get
that's a lot of
paid
production.
So much. Well, God, I hope so, because they must be getting other money somehow. Like, otherwise, what is the point?
As people who worked on productions, you gotta have that's for somebody, right? Jeez.
God, there's gonna be some audience out there, like what
even
the
internet, even the vast internet. So I would give it a 9 out of 10. Finding out your brother not only faked his death and disappearance, he gets to wear a cool mask, and you don't get to wear cool masks like him.
No.
So with that, Thea, what's the final word?
Deal.
And this has been the Horror Deconstruction.
The Horror Deconstruction.